Get started. Okay, so let's begin our class. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadadi Swapadandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shrirupam Sagrajatam Sakagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sakagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Desatarine Nama Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanyaya Namne Gauratushe Namaha Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagatitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Shrinvadam Swakata Krishna Punyashravana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto hi avadrani vidunoti sugaratsatam Ite chamsa kala pumsa krishnastu bhagavan swayam Indriyari vyakulam lokam hridayante yuge yuge. Okay, so welcome all to this continuation of our Canto 1. So, in the last class, we recited this very famous sloka. So, let's repeat that again. 15.27. देशकालार्थयुक्तानि हृत्तपोपशामि पशामणि च हरन्ति स्मरतश्चित्तं गोविन्दाभिभिधानि मे. Translation. Now I am attracted to those instruction imparted to me by the personality of Godhead Govinda, because they impregnated with instruction for relieving the burning hearts in all circumstances of time and space. Right? So, one of the greatest expressions of devotion that Arjuna demonstrated was remembering Lord's activities. Then he goes deeper into it. He remembers the Lord's instruction in the form of Bhagavad Gita, which was spoken on the battlefield. So now Prabhupada is trying to explain here that how his remembrance of Bhagavad Gita has helped Arjuna. Okay. Uh, Prabhupada concludes that the remembrance of the instructions of the Lord in the form of Bhagavad Gita has helped to remove all aspects of ignorance, all aspects of illusion that he had. And what was burning in his heart, like desires or illusionary effects or reactions, he says everything got burnt, right? And it not only burnt in the past, in the future also. That's why Prabhupada concludes by saying time and space. Hmm? So that was the greatest instructions of Bhagavad Gita, which he remembered. Now, in the next subsequent slokas also, you'll see 28, 29, 30. So these four slokas also you'll see that how Bhagavad Gita can help one in progressing in spiritual life, right? So taking shelter of Bhagavad Gita at various points in time and what did Arjuna do? So that's what we are going to discuss now. Okay, so we'll discuss sloka number 28. Sutavacha evam chintayato jishnu krishna pada saroruham sauharedena atigadena santashit vimalamatihi. Sahurdena. Okay, Sahurdena here refers to the friendship that Arjuna had with Krishna, right? The friendship was so deep. It had devotion in it. It is not just friendship at the surface, it had devotion in it. And not only it had devotion, that Sahurdena is also referring to it had so much of affection for each other. Okay? That unseparable affection. And that's what Prabhupada calls it as devotion. Translation. Sutta Goswami said, thus being deeply absorbed in thinking of the instructions of the Lord, which are imparted in the great intimacy of friendship, and in thinking of his lotus feet, Arjuna's mind became pacified and free from all material contaminations. Okay? Now, for a king, what could be a material contamination in the war? Material contamination could be I have to kill the enemy at any cost. I have to achieve the throne. I have to protect my people. I have, etc., etc. It just goes on like that. No, but those are all material. Arjuna's ability to fight the war or to be victorious, everything was motivated by the instructions of the Lord. So Arjuna fought this war just to please Krishna. He did not fight this war for the sake of his brothers or because of Draupadi or because of his own desire, nothing. So hence Prabhupada says that material conceptions of things that Arjuna had that got vanquished. Right? So when the material concepts get vanquished in our heart, then you see the mind pacifies because the mind does not have any other activity to do. The mind has to do only one activity: chant the holy name of the Lord and remember Him. There's nothing else the mind needs to do. So hence mind pacified. When the mind becomes chanchalam, when it is disturbed by too many material thoughts, I have to accomplish this, I have to do this, I have to do that, somehow fulfill my desires. That is the condition of material state. And then Prabhupada says that see how Arjuna's consciousness and mind got pacified. We read that now in sloka number 73, 18.73, the same thing, right? All these illusions go away, and Arjuna, this is the key here. Let me highlight here. This is the key part of the conclusion. It says, the feeling of separation from the Lord undoubtedly painful to the devotee. Right? Now here, Arjuna is got two aspects. One, the closeness with Krishna he enjoyed as a cousin, as a friend. And secondly, like a guru where he gave his instruction to him. So he is getting separated from all of it. But because it is connection with the Lord, what Prabhupada is concluding is, Anything when Krishna is present in any of our activity, that becomes transcendental or it becomes spiritual. So even though it is the same remembrance using the mind and things like that, because it is of Krishna, Prabhupada says it is pure, it is transcendental. Feelings of separation also source of transcendental bliss, and they're never comparable to contaminated material feelings of separation because he was thinking of Krishna. Right? Now, if we think of our auntie or uncle who passed away, all the time feeling of separation, it is material because the person who died is also material. But Krishna is Satchidananda. He is completely spiritual. So remembering him, feeling separation from him also becomes spiritual. That's what Prabhupada is trying to conclude here. Okay? Okay, let's move forward. Okay, we'll go to sloka number 29. Now, this sloka tells that our remembrance of the Lord is considered to be the greatest of devotion. When Prabhupada was asked, Prabhupada, what is considered to be the greatest devotion that one can demonstrate? Prabhupada said, the greatest devotion is to remember the Lord at all circumstances, at all point in time. He is considered to be the greatest in devotion. What happens in such a greatest remembrance is all material trash in our mind, they just vanish. Just that is considered to be topmost in devotion. Now let's see what this sloka refers to us. 29. Vasudevangri anudhyana parimbrimata ramhasa bhaktya nirmatitasesha kashaya dishano Arjuna. Arjuna's constant remembrance of the lotus feet of Sri Krishna rapidly increased his devotion. And as a result, all thrash in his thought got subsided. Okay. So you see, now Arjuna is demonstrating extreme devotion, just like how the gopis demonstrated. When Krishna left Vrindavan and went off, all the gopis demonstrated greatest remembrance. In remembrance, they were in tears. So these are all not material activities, these are highest transcendental activities, right? Now, what I've done, I've compiled a few slokas, which is all combination of remembrance of the Lord. Okay, I'll just share that here. There's just few slokas. There are many, of course, we can just go on. Okay, so now, are you able to see the screen?
No, Prabhu, only Bhagavatam screen.
Yes, Prabhu.
Huh?
No, Prabhu.
No.
I'm able to see the screen, Prabhu.
Okay, now?
Yes, Prabhu.
No, yes, Prabhu. Now it is compilation is seen.
Prabhu, we can see the slokas of Bhagavad Gita.
Some slokas I captured from Bhagavad Gita. So, first sloka. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anushmara yuddhayacha. Right? So here, what Krishna is telling Arjuna, that when will you be victorious in your war? When will your astra that you've learned from the demigods, you learned from your guru, you learned through your practices, you learned through your shastra, when will they work fully? Right? So what is meaning of an astra work fully? For example, if Arjuna is going to fire an Agni Astra, it is supposed to, let's say, attack 20 people. When will it attack 20 people fully and do what it's supposed to do? Is when you remember me. Right? When will you be victorious over your enemies? It is not about you showing your strength in the warfield. It is when you fight in remembrance of me. Right? So he's telling that to Arjuna. So therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna. In the form of Krishna, not in any other form. And at the same time, carry out a prescribed duty of fighting. So Krishna never told Arjuna not to fight. He never said, oh, my Sudarshan Chakra is there, Arjuna, it'll just go kill everyone. You don't need to worry. He's not going to say that. He said, you do your duty. What's your duty now? As a Kshatriya, you're supposed to fight. You fight. But how to fight? You fight with enthusiasm, yes, but you also remember me. Completely. When you remember me and fight with enthusiasm, carrying out your prescribed duties, then what happens? You will become victorious. So hence he says, with your activities dedicated to me. Now, here, what activities? Activities of remembering and fighting. Okay. So, you should remember me only, Arjuna, not something else or anyone else. So, that's why dedicated to me. And your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. Right? So, this is a phenomenal sloka talking about remembrance. So, if Arjuna can remember the Lord in a battlefield which is full of gory and aggression and anger and lust, why can't we remember the Lord throughout the day in all our activities we perform? And Prabhupada says, if you are able to do that, that is considered to be topmost in devotion. So, this is the first sloka that tells that. Now, let's look at next sloka from Bhagavad Gita 6.18. Yada vinayatam chittam atmani eva vatistate nishpraha sarva kamebhyo yukta iti uchyate tada. Oh, Prabhupada is talking, this is Dhyana Yoga. Chapter 6 is Dhyana Yoga. Okay. When a yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, not thinking of any karmic activities, no material desire, he is said to be established well in yoga. But when the word comes, becomes situated in transcendence, when can something become transcendence? Transcendence means something beyond the three modes of material nature. So only when he is able to remember and focus attention on the Supreme Lord Vishnu, then he is established to be well in yoga. So you see, the topmost yoga system, Dhyana Yoga, of course, in the context, Bhakti Yoga is the topmost, but in the context, Dhyana Yoga can be achieved fully only when you remember the Lord. Otherwise, you cannot achieve. Right? So you see, anything that someone wants to succeed, the Lord's grace and mercy is required. Otherwise, you cannot succeed. Now, let's look at 6.7. Now, you may ask one question, Prabhu, then how come people who are non-devotees, they success on some material activities? Okay, so now two concepts to conclude there. The first concept is a person is just enjoying his fruitatives of his karmic reaction, which he accumulated over his previous birth. So hence he's just doing it. Okay. Now, the second thing, how is he able to achieve success in that? The Lord shelters every living entity. He shelters the Devatas, he shelters Asuras also. Both Lord shelters. But with Devatas, Lord shelters with his internal potency, but Asuras, he shelters with his external potency. That's what you have to understand. So it means, instead of Yogamaya doing, it is Prakriti which is doing. And why Prakriti is doing? Just dissipating his karmic reactions. Hence, we should not get confused with that and this. Okay. Now, let's look at this sloka, 12.617. Yetu sarvani karmani mayi sanyasa matparaha ananyenaiva yogena mam dhyayanti upasate. This is chapter 12, culmination of devotion service. Tesam aham samudartha mrityu samsara sagarat bhavami nacharat partha mayi aveshita chetasam. So, look at what Lord is saying. How can remembrance yield the greatest success? Is what Krishna is describing here. Those who worship me, giving up all their activities on to me. Look at that. Giving up all the activities on to me means activities will continue to be performed, but activities will be performed for the pleasure of the Lord. That's what it means. It is not that one will not do anything and then just keep quiet and sit in one corner of the room. No. Activities on to me and being devoted to me without deviation. Okay, what does without deviation means? See, we seldom okay, in the morning I'll generally worship Krishna, but in the evening I'll go to Shiva temple. And Tuesday I will go to some other temple. Wednesday I'll go to some other temple. I'll do. So that means what you're doing is, You're worshipping Krishna, but along with it, you're also worshipping or doing many other parallel activities. So that's what he says. He says, devoted to me without deviation. You cannot deviate from my devotion. That's what it means. Now, engage in devotion service, always meditating upon me, having fixed their mind upon me, O son of Pritha, what I can do to that people, I'll deliver them from this birth and death. That means you will not be born again in this planet. Okay. Now let's look at the next sloka, which talks about remembrance. This is from the first canto only, sixth chapter, which we have gone through in the past. Intelligence engaged in my devotion cannot be thwarted at any time. Huh? Whatever intelligence Lord gave us, if used in service of Krishna, it cannot be distorted at any point in time. It will be so much fixed. And we'll do phenomenally wonderful things. At the time of creation, as well as the time of the annihilation. That means not only time of birth, even at time of death. He says, your remembrance will continue by my mercy. That is the point here, right? So, one able to remember the Lord at time of birth, what happens? In the womb, that living entity wants to come out to this material world to perform his activities. So he prays to the Lord and he says, oh Lord, please allow me to take birth and I can perform devotional services and I can remember you at all times. He makes a promise and he comes out. But according to his situation, if he's not born in a family of Vaishnavas, he gets influenced by the materialistic people around him. His father, mother, uncle, brothers, aunt, everyone. And he performs those material activities. Right? At the time of death, if he doesn't remember the Lord, again he remembers material activities. So that means you see, both during birth and annihilation, that means death, the remembrance of the Lord can happen only by God's mercy. So for that mercy, what we need to do? We perform devotion service. So you see how remembrance is very powerful. Okay, now 2.16. Krishna says, the highest perfection of human life achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit or by practice of mystic power or occupation of duties is to remember the personality of God at the end of life. That means if we have passed 60 years of our age or 70 years of age or 80 years of our age, if our activities do not result in remembrance of the Lord, that life is of no use. You wasted that human being's form of life. If all our activities do not result in remembrance of the Lord, then we have to change by consulting a guru. What is it that I'm doing wrong? Then the guru will make course correction in our remembrance and we will lead a life in always thinking of the Lord. Okay? Then this sloka, I'll take 3.5.13. Okay. For one who is anxious to engage constantly in hearing such topics, what topics? Krishna Katha gradually increases in indifference towards all others. What is indifference to all others? We always have a biased opinion about others. Oh, he is like this, he is like this. He is close to me, he is far to me. He is important to me, he is not important to me. I'll do good to him, I'll criticize him. So this is how we have, framed our thought process towards every living entity. Now what Krishna says, by hearing the topics of Krishna, by chanting his name, by remembering him, slowly that indifferences towards the others will go away. Pandita Samadarshana will manifest. Such constant remembrance of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna by the devotee was achieved transcendental, vanquishes all his miseries without delay. So, you see how remembrance can purify our heart again and again. This is very, very important. Right? We can at least take about 100 slokas from Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam to talk about the remembrance and the activities connected to remembrance. Yat karoshi, yad ashnashi, yad juhoshi. Krishna says, whatever you do, whatever you offer it as devotion unto me for my pleasure. Right? You see remembrance? Remembrance is there everywhere. It is just that we need to take that, separate it out, and ensure that we think of the Lord at every situation. A good news came to you, remember the Lord. Oh, the Lord sending the good news to me. A bad thing came to you, also remember the Lord. Oh, it is done for my purification. You will see that you're always pacified, you're always happy, you're blissful state. So hence, Prabhupada talking about Arjuna, demonstrating increases devotion by thinking of Krishna. Right? Now, in the previous slokas we talked about, what did Arjuna talked about? Arjuna talked about the good things and the bad things. How? When the Kauravas did those bad things, the Pandavas suffered. He remembered that event, but immediately those were corrected and protected by the Lord. So he remembered the Lord. See, every bad and good is constantly remembered in presence of the Lord. That's what Arjuna did. Right? It increased his devotion. Okay. Now, in the last class also we talked about, each of you to write at least 10 bullet points about various events that happened in your life and how did you see the hands of the Lord in those events. No, it has actually had two parts. I don't know how many of you wrote. I had only 3 people submitting to me. One was Radharani Mataji, another was Kabir Das Prabhu, and Venkat Prabhu. They shared that with me. Others didn't share, but I don't know whether they wrote or didn't write. But here is the point why I wanted you to write. Now, let's say there was an incident. Okay. And that incident made you to go through the difficulty in life. But you see that at the end of the incident, somehow you came out successful, out of the trouble. There you have to see the hands of the Lord. Right? You see a troubling incident as a karmic reaction, and relief from that by the hands of the Lord. If you're able to relate these, then you will see hands of the Lord in every aspect of our life. So that's why I told you to write. If you've not written, I still want you to request you to please write it and read through for yourself. What is it doing to you? What is it? It's changing your consciousness. This activity will actually make you to remember the Lord of the past incidents and the future also. That's why it's a very powerful exercise. Okay? So I still recommend you to write that, do that exercise if you've not done so. Okay, so now let's go to the next sloka here. 15.30. Geetam Bhagavata Jnanam Yattat Sangrama Murdhani Kala Karmo Tamo Ruddham Punaradhyagamat Prabhu. Because of Lord's pastimes and activities and because of absence, it appeared that Arjuna forgot the instruction left by the personality of Godhead. But it was not actually the case. He remembered them much more strongly. So for us, what does this mean? What does this sloka mean? Right? For us, we have not seen the Lord, but we have past experiences of our life. And we want to see the Lord in the future. So what happens in the future? What did Krishna do? Krishna, when he left the body, he told, I'm waiting to receive all of you back in Vaikuntha planets. It was very clear to Arjuna. It was very clear to Yudhishthira. So, though they felt the separation, but they knew that after leaving this body, they'll once again get associated with that Supreme Lord. Where? The Vaikuntha planets. So, that became the factor for pacification. And it increased the devotion. Arjuna immediately increased his devotion by saying, he remembered this sloka, Manmana Bhava Mad Bhakto Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru Ma Meveshasi Satyam Te Pratijana Ma Priyoshime. Oh, Krishna said, I have to remember him at all points in time. So he increased his devotion. Kunti Marani, just by hearing this conversation between Arjuna and Yudhishthir, she increased her devotion. Everyone who heard this conversation, they increased their devotion. And we are hearing this conversation. We should also increase our devotion. Okay, so here, this is an important paragraph which is highlighted. So let's see if any new devotees are there. Okay, Anaga Mataji. Anaga? Anaga Mataji, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, do you want to read this highlighted?
Just give me a second. Says Arjuna had no desire to fight with his relatives, but he fought for the mission of the Lord. He was always engaged in the execution of his mission only. And therefore, after the Lord's departure, he remained in the same transcendental position, even though it appeared that he forgot all the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita. One should therefore adjust the activities of life in pace with the mission of the Lord. And by doing this, one is sure to return back home, back to Godhead. This is higher perfection of life.
Hari. Okay, so now you see, Prabhupada is concluding that remembrance of the instructions of the Lord and making adjustments to our life. That is the key aspect here. We might have led our life in the past based on our own understanding or our own desires of the life. But now these instructions have hit our heart. We immediately change the way we lead our life. Okay, what time shall I get up in the morning? What activities that I'll do in the morning? What activities that I'll do in the evening? What books that I read? I may be reading some other novels and books in my past life. Now what book shall I read? So like that, how we spend our time, how we do our activities, things will change. And this is called adjustment of activities. So when they do this adjustment of activities, the life becomes perfect. When life becomes perfect, the destination also becomes perfect. That's what Srila Prabhupada is trying to conclude here. So now in Sloka 31, all his doubts were cut off and the duality went away. So when the duality for Arjuna went away, what is duality? Dualities are paradoxes of this life, right? We see someone suffering, someone happy. That's duality. We see someone rich, someone poor. That's duality. Someone stronger, someone weaker. Duality. So hence, we tend to adjust according to the duality in life. But a person who's completely spiritualized, he will not see any more dualities that exist just purely because of his three modes of material nature. Right? And that concludes by saying, Prabhupada says, Arjuna transcended the material world and he was beyond the three modes of material nature. Now, what's the meaning of beyond three modes of material nature? That means he will not take birth or any activities in the material plane. Completely free from all these material forms. Right? So this is what happened to Arjuna. So Arjuna is now teaching us in a very, very great manner how to remember and demonstrate our feeling of separation to the Lord. Right? So now I will now take you to this chapter in take you to see, this is from you able to see the screen?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. This is from 11th canto. The 11th canto, this is a last chapter. For example, if you look at 11th canto, see, the 11th canto concludes chapter number 30 and 31. 30 talks about disappearance of the Yadu dynasty, how the Yadu dynasty completely got disappeared. What was the plan of the Lord? And 31 talks about disappearance of Lord Krishna. Okay, how did Krishna departed, this world? Now, Krishna's departure is not like our departure. Krishna unmanifest, unmanifest. What is unmanifest, unmanifest? The sun came out of the horizon and we saw the sun. And sun spent some time around giving heat. And again in the west, in the evening, it sets. No, it did not get created and destroyed, but it came out and went away. So similarly, Krishna's appearance and disappearance also like that. So that's what the dedication of this chapter is about. Okay. So now what we will do is we'll just go through this chapter, this sloka alone, and see what Prabhupada is trying to explain. Arjuna preyasha shakyuhu Krishnasya virahāturaha atmanam santavyamasa Krishna Gitaisa uktibihi. Now look at the meaning of the sloka. Arjuna felt great distress over separation from Lord Krishna, his dearmost friend. But he consoled himself by remembering the transcendental words of the Lord had sung to him. Right? Now, what is the biggest transcendental words of the Lord is prescribed duties. O Arjuna, you're born here. You have certain prescribed duties to perform during your presence in this material world. And at the end of your time in the material world, you have prescribed duties how to leave this material world and come back to me. This is the whole chapter for a living entity. Now, none of us follow the prescribed duties because we are so much involved in material activities. And that's why this particular sloka is so important. Okay. Sridhar Swami says, 7.25 from Bhagavad Gita, Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samavritah mudoyam nabijanati lokoyam ajam avyayam. What the Lord says, I never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. That means what? People who are atheist or who have never understood spiritual subjects can never see the Lord or cannot even understand the presence of the Lord in any of the activities in this material realm. Okay? For them, I am covered by my eternal creative potency, Yogamaya, and so the deluded worlds know me not, whom I am unborn and infallible. Now, here, Yogamaya is actually the energy of the Lord is considered as Yogamaya. Yogamaya is divided into internal and external potency. So, the Mahamaya is actually a branch of Yogamaya. That's why Prabhupada uses the word Yogamaya here. Right? Now, in the sloka which Kunti Marani speaks, Maya Javani Kachanam Agnya Dokshajam Avyayam Na Lakshashe Moda Drisha Nato Natya Daroyata. Now, what does he say? He says, the Nato Natya Darayata, that means the activities and pastimes of the Lord are continuously going on, but it's not visible to us. Why? Because, like, for example, let's say you have a television and you put a curtain in front of the television. You cannot see the picture, right? Now, if you take the curtain, you can see the television and you can see the picture in the movie or whatever it may be. So, the point to conclude is the television presence and the scenes in the television are continuously going on. But it is either visible to us or not visible to us because of the curtain. So, the curtain is Yogamaya. Right? When we are spiritualized, when we are practicing devotion, Yogamaya opens this curtain and allows us to see the manifestation of the Lord. When our consciousness is fully material, the Yogamaya puts the curtain and we don't see the Lord, we see only material activities. Okay, so that's the difference, and that's why Prabhupada called it as Yogamaya in general. Okay. Similarly, Jiva Goswami mentions the Gita. He says, Maam evaishasi satyam te pratijana priyoshami. Now, what does this say? Krishna says satyam te. What is satyam te? Krishna is promising, and when Krishna promises, he'll really keep up the promise. Huh? What he says? If you remember me, And if you remember me in all your activities, and if you also remember me at the time of death. But Krishna in the previous sloka, he said, if you don't remember final death, because of your devotion, I'll make you to remember me. So devotion helps us to remember Krishna. Then what does Krishna say? I promise you, because you're a dear friend, you will come to me without fail. So that's the promise Krishna gives, right? So this is from Mahabharata. This sloka is from Mahabharata. Okay, so you see how the activities of the Lord are always present, and how remembrance becomes the greatest devotion that one can practice, right? So this is beautifully explained by Srila Prabhupada in these particular slokas. Now, Arjuna has expressed whatever he needs to express. His initial expression was, he kept silent all the questions to Yudhishthira. To the final question, he explained about all the activities about relationship. He's just recollecting the past beautiful situations that he had with Krishna, how he favored him, how he protected the Pandavas. Then Arjuna is coming about talking about how the instructions of the Lord in the battlefield that is helping him. Right? Now Prabhupada is adding more details to that by saying how the instructions has made Arjuna to become fully spiritual, to fully devotional. Right? Now this chapter is with respect to Arjuna is over. Now in 32 onwards, you will see now Yudhishthira is thinking, what is my duty now? What shall I do? So Yudhishthira is thinking that being an eternal associate of the Lord, my duty is to serve the Lord. If the Lord is not here anymore, I better end my life and leave back home, back to Godhead. So now Yudhishthira is thinking how to retire from my kingdom and go back home, back to Godhead. Right? So that's the sloka that we're going to start with from 32. Nishamya Bhagavan Margam Samstam Yadu Kulasya Cha Swapataya Matim Chakre Nibrathatma Yudhishthiraha. Upon hearing Lord Krishna is returning to his abode, and upon understanding the end of Yadu dynasty, which is like very close to Yudhishthira, Maharaj Yudhishthira decided to go back home, back to Godhead. He says, there's no more here. Now, why? There are many reasons to this. Now, the first reason is separation from the Lord. I cannot handle separation from the Lord. So there's no point in me living. Right? So one. Second, the Lord has gone back to the spiritual world, and I have my duties of service to the Lord. So what I'm going to do here? I better retire and go back home so that I can continue to perform my devotion service to the Lord, which is spending in the spiritual planets. That's why Yudhishthira wants to go. But look at materialists. They don't want to go. They want to live as much as possible in the material world to enjoy. See, a realized soul versus a non-realized soul. Right? So that is the second. Third, what is going to happen in the material world now? Lord's end of pastimes also denotes end of Dwapara. Now, Kali was born by this time. But Kali's strength, his energies, his potency, all were curtailed to almost zero because of presence of Lord. Now, Lord has left the world. So Kali became stronger. Now, we saw in the earlier slokas that Yudhishthira had bad omens, bad dreams. Right? We also heard that story, right? Where people are coming and showing symptoms like one pot filling another pot, it's empty. Symptoms like the land is moving. Symptoms like the elephant passing through, but the tail getting caught. Like that, we saw many symptoms. So Yudhishthira concluded that the absence of Lord will make Kali prominent. That means sinful life will begin. People will not have mercy on others. They will kill animals and they'll eat. People will gamble. People will intoxicate themselves. We saw intoxication. The entire Yadu dynasty, because of intoxication, the entire race got killed. So intoxication is dangerous. So intoxication will increase. Illicit activities will increase. People would want to connect with those illicit people. They want to go to those places to enjoy. Now, these are the foundation principles. From this derived. People will start to lie. Truthfulness will become shaken up. You see, people will be very greedy. They'll achieve their desires at any cost, even at the cost of others' lives. So, when Yudhishthira saw all these things, he said, this is no place for a person like me, he's dharma personified, right? How can he live anti-religiosity? So, Yudhishthira also decided to leave. And that's the conclusion of this whole thing, right? You can read through the purport, you will understand the consciousness of the state of Yudhishthira. Okay, now let's go to sloka number 33. Now, this is the conversation happening between Yudhishthira and Arjuna. The other members of the Pandavas heard. Kunti Maharani also heard. Now let's see what she's going to do. Pratapi anushrutya dhananjayoditam nasham yadunam bhagavad gatim chatam ekanta bhaktya bhagavati yadokshaje niveshitatmo pararama samshritaha. Kunti, after overhearing Arjuna telling the end of Yadu dynasty and disappearance of Lord Krishna, what she did? She intensified her devotion service. She engaged in devotional service of transcendental personal Godhead with full attention and thus gained release from the course of material existence. She got liberated. Right? Now you see, pure devotees, they don't want to live, with absence of the Lord. So they performed intense devotion to perfect their life, go back home, back to Godhead. Right? So can someone read this purport fully? Can new members come to read forward? Or shall I call out? Okay, so who are
Can
the
I
new?
read, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna
Is
Prabhu,
it
shall I?
okay? Can we give new members?
Hare Krishna
Yes,
Prabhu,
Prabhu.
shall I read, Prabhu?
I want to give to new members, Prabhuji. I'm just seeing here if any new members are there. Okay. Shiv Prasad Prabhu, do you want to try read? Shiv Prasad Prabhu?
Shalini Mataji, somebody new.
Mita,
Hare Krishna,
Mita,
Prabhu. Can I read?
Ah,
Hare
please.
Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah.
Who's this?
Subramaniam.
Read, Prabhu.
The setting of the sun does not mean the end of the sun. It means that the sun is out of our sight. Similarly, the end of the mission of the Lord on a particular planet or universe only means that he is out of our sight. The end of the Edu dynasty also does not mean that it is annihilated. It disappears along with the Lord out of our sight. As Maharaja Yudhishthira decided to prepare to go back to Godhead, so also Kunti decided, and thus she fully engaged herself in the transcendental devotional service of the Lord, which guarantees one a passport for going back to the Godhead after quitting this present material body. The beginning of devotional service to the Lord is the beginning of spiritualizing the present body, and thus an unalloyed devotee of the Lord loses all material contact in the present body. The abode of the Lord is not a myth, as is thought by the unbelievers or
Krishna.
ignorant people. But one cannot reach there by any material means like a Sputnik or space capsule. But one can certainly reach there after leaving this present body, and one must prepare himself to go back to Godhead by practicing devotional service. That guarantees a passport for going back to Godhead, and Kunti adopted it. Hare Krishna.
Okay. So now, just to understand in parts what does this mean. First is the faith. We should be clearly convinced about our life. We were not eternally in this planet. It is not that I lived for billions and billions right from creation of this earth. I was not living here. No, it is not true. I just appeared from the womb of my mother, very short period of time. And after the last day of my life, which will also be a short period of time, I will leave away. That means a small window of opportunity is given to practice devotion, to perfect our life. We cannot misuse that window for doing other things of life. That's the point here. Okay? So, one has to become very serious about this human opportunity that has been given rather than using that human opportunity in other aspects of life. Okay? So, that's the first understanding. The first understanding is okay, I should be very clear as to why I'm born and what are my prescribed duties. We have assumed many prescribed duties. We have assumed I have to work in this company as a CEO, I have to build assets, I have to work as a film actor, I have to do this. We have assumed many duties. Those are all the new duties. The real purpose of why we are born. That is called as prescribed duties. Now, once we understand those prescribed duties, then you see all our misunderstanding on the material plane. This I should do, that I should do, this I desire, that I desire. Everything actually has no meaning. Okay. Second, our activities must change to meet the final destination timeline. Now, each of us are born in this world with a definite date of expiry. There's no doubt about it, correct? Some of us may live for 75 years, some of us may live for 95 years, some of us may live only for 40, 50 years. So we don't know that. So what we do is we are getting prepared for the final exam. Now, what is the final exam? Krishna says, if you are performing devotion to remember me, you will definitely attain me without fail, and I guarantee you. So, our preparation for the final exam is to hear Katha of the Lord, how to remember Him, and call Him out for help. That's all. So, these are our duties and activities. If we do this regularly, we are getting prepared for the final exam. A student who prepares for the final exam nicely, he will pass the exam. He'll come with flying colors. Is it not true? If a student doesn't prepare at all for his exam, goes and writes his exam, what will happen to him? He'll fail. So, what does failure mean to us? After leaving this body, instead of attaining a spiritual body, we will attain one more material body. That is called failing in the exam. Passing the exam means attaining our spiritual body and returning back to our original service that we are performing for the pleasure of the Lord. That is called attaining spiritual body, and that's called passing the exam. So, we have to get ready for the final exam. And the current human form of life is a means and methods to prepare for that final exam. Okay? Is that very clear for all of us?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
One day, what happens? We go to someone's death. Someone passed away, devotee, non-devotee, or it may be passed away. Now, but you see, there, many of the relatives would come and request us. Oh, Prabhu, please chant Hare Krishna mantra, do some kirtan, read Bhagavad Gita, do something, do something. Now, it is their love and affection, their anxiety that they're trying to do it. But actually, what happens? When we go to the house of a person who's just left his body and we read the Bhagavad Gita, either chapter 2, which is summary, or chapter 12, which is devotion, or any other chapter which talks about the glories of the Lord, what happens? The soul, because of its attachment to that body and to the family members and to the house, will revolve around that body for some period of time. But when these are chanted, you're basically telling the soul the instruction that, oh, your duty was supposed to realize and remember Lord, but you did not do all those things. So, the soul will get purified based on our recitations, and once again it resumes the journey to practice devotion. Okay? So, that is the fate of People leaving the body without devotion. And that is a fate of getting some more Ajnata Sukriti of devotees coming and visiting and reciting something. So now we shall not be in that state. What we shall do? We have got the opportunity now. Let's practice it. Let us practice it with full heart. Let's practice it with devotion. And leave no stone unturned. Right? That is what we learn from what Kunti Mani. Kunti Mani, she heard. Look at her intelligence. She just heard the conversation. That's it. She knew what needed to do. Immediately she discharged her duties towards devotion, intense devotion, went back home, back to God. That's it. This is what an intelligent devotee will do. If Kuntimani was not an intelligent devotee, then she will deliberate. Okay, let me do after 10 years, let me do after retirement. Should have postponed and should have been a big question mark. Right? So this sloka is a very, very great inspiration for each one of us. Okay, sounds good? Now let's go to the next few slokas. In the next few slokas, you see, it is like the Yadus getting annihilated, and Yudhishthir was initially getting confused because why should all the others die? Why did Krishna, completely erase that race? So like that, he had many questions around. So all those things got clarified to Yudhishthir now. Now that's what you'll see. That means remembering the Lord, seeking devotion will take us out of illusion of all aspects from us. Yayaharad bhuvo baram tam tanum vijahau ajaha kantakam kantakena va dvayam chapi situhu samam. The Supreme Unborn, Lord Krishna, caused the members of the Yadu dynasty to relinquish. Relinquish means renounce. Renounce their bodies, and thus he relieved the burden of the world. This action was like picking out a thorn with another thorn, though both are same to the controller. Okay? So now, why was this is very clear. Krishna Chakravarti Thakura very beautifully explains. He says that the presence of Yadus will cause burden to this society. Why? Because after the Lord leaves, if the Yadus may practice, or the hierarchy of Yadus may practice in a different manner, claiming ownership of something. And that will cause burden to this world. Because again, you will see wrong paths of practices, wrong paths of understanding will evolve. And no one is there to question because Yadus are bona fide from Lord's lineage. So hence Krishna thought through that and ensured that no one shall claim the property of this. No one shall claim anything after I left. And hence, Krishna, what did he do? He just left only one thing. What did he leave? His instruction. He left only two things. The instructions in the form of Bhagavad Gita, and he left the details of activities of his pastimes in the form of Bhagavatam, so that just people can take these two, practice their devotion, go back home, back to God. Right? So, to relieve the burden of the world, Krishna ensured that the Yadu communities were erased. But moreover, we've already discussed this many times. The Yadus were a combination of Devatas, the Yadus were a combination of Nityasiddhas. The Nityasiddhas moved away from Dwaraka straight to the Vaikuntha planets. If you read 11th Canto, 30th chapter, you will understand the whole thing. For example, Balramji. Balramji just went to the ocean, sit in the meditative posture, and just unmanifested. Then you see how, Krishna sends his chariot, his Sudarshan Chakra, even his Daruka, his charioteer. Everyone, Krishna sends them back. Now, there were some of the others that were left, those are nothing but the demigods who manifested. So they need to go back to perform their prescribed duties, right? So, for example, the moon god, Soma, he is supposed to do his activities as, in the Chandra planet. So what he has to do? He cannot go back home, back to Godhead. He has to go back to the material planets and he has to perform his duties. So Krishna told all those Yadus who are nothing but Devatas manifested, he sent them with Arjuna to Prabhasha Kshetra. And in Prabhasha Kshetra, we read that no intoxication, they killed to each other, everyone got eradicated. Right? So that's what the Lord did. So the Lord left no traces of any of these things. Okay?
But what happens to Uddhava Prabhu?
Uddhava, so when Uddhava comes to Prabhashetra, right? So Lord is telling that Uddhava, you have to stay back. So now Uddhava tells, oh Lord, I'm so dear to you. Why is that I'm getting a separate treatment? Why is that I can't go back with you? So Krishna says, no, my mission is incomplete. You have to stay back to complete that mission. Now, what is that incomplete mission? There were many rishis and yogis who were really meditating on the Lord and performed intense tapasya in Badrikashrama. And the Lord promised to go there. But somehow Lord could not go there due to various factors of time or whatever it may be. So hence Lord told Uddhava, I could not go there to, nourish their consciousness. So you go there and teach them Srimad Bhagavatam, which is nothing but my entire life history, my activities, my pastimes. So that way, you will fulfill the desire of my great devotees in Badrikashram. So Lord gives him a mission to perform. So Uddhava goes there to Badrikashrama. He reads the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. He teaches them to the rishis and they all get completely nourished and satisfied. And Uddhava, from the Badrikashrama, he unmanifests. He doesn't come anywhere else. Right? So that's how Lord gave certain instruction to certain set of people. Right? Now, as living entities, for example, Yudhishthir, he had a duty. What duty? I have a duty to establish the presence and activities of the Lord in this world because people coming, the next generation, they have to read Bhagavad Gita to get the instructions of the Lord. They also should understand various activities and pastimes. This is places of Kshetras, Punya Kshetras should manifest. He had all these things. So what he did, he immediately called his two grandsons. His grandson is Parikshit and Lord's grandson is Rajanabha. So he enthroned Rajanabha as the king of Dwarka. He enthroned Parikshit as king of Hastinapura and gave them the mission, carry forward the instructions of the Lord and establish all these places of importance. So like that you see today Vrindavan, 84 koshas are there. And all the 84 koshas, various pastimes and temples are there. Now, these are the people who later on established the whole thing. That's why we are able to go there and perform devotion. So you see, certain devotees were given those activities to establish, the places of importance of Lord's performance. And they did that. And somehow, whatever they did, some of them, they got lost. And again, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he came, he again re-manifested many of those places. So like that, you see, devotees play those roles time again and again.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Uddhava, I didn't hear what happened, Prabhu, in the end.
He left the world from Badrikashrama only.
Where does he go, Prabhu?
He unmanifest from Badrikashrama itself. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so let's go to next sloka, which is 15.35. Yata matsyadi rupani dadde jayad yata nataha bhubaraha shapito yena jahau tachakkalevaram. The Supreme Lord relinquished the body which he had manifest to diminish the burden of the earth. Just like a magician, he relinquishes one body to accept another one, like a fish incarnation and others. So this particular sloka is only explaining that there were burden of the earth. What was the burden of the earth? Adharma. What is the adharma that was prevailing? Lord created 4 orders. Chaturvarnam Maya Shrishtam. That means I created the Kshatriya, the Brahmana, the Kshatriya, the Vaishya, and Sudra. These four orders had a particular prescribed duty. Now, what is the prescribed duty? For example, a Brahmana, his prescribed duty is to learn Shastra and give that knowledge to all classes of men. So he is like a guru. He trains people. What does a Kshatriya do? Kshatriya do administration of this world. And how does he administer? He administers under the guidance of a Brahmana. So Brahmana is very powerful. Brahmana can create and destroy, right? Of course, today there's no Brahmanas, but at least, those days. The best example is we can understand from King Vena. See, King Vena, when he was adharmic in nature, what did the Brahmanas do? They killed him. They said, no, we don't want such kings. But the same Brahmanas created Prithu Maharaj from the body of Vena. So it means the Brahmanas can kill and create. They can do both. So, but they can't do administration. So administrative class, the Kshatriyas, they have to work under the guidance of the Brahmana. Now, when they work under the guidance of Brahmana, you see administration is perfect. Okay? Now, just because there is administration, there is knowledge, it doesn't mean people can eat, but there needs to be some economic development. If there's no economics that are going on, then we can't do Gorakshak, we can't do farming, people cannot live. So that's why the Vaishya community was created. The Vaishyas, what do? They create food, produce, so that the administration can function. Now, to do all these things, you need the worker class, hence the Sudra class was created. Now, Krishna said, I created these four classes, and they have to supposed to work according to the prescribed duties. But what were they doing? They were not doing that. So, for example, let's take in Hastinapur, what was happening. Now, who's the Kulaguru in Hastinapur? Dronacharya, and also Vidura to some extent. Okay. Now, Duryodhana or the king Dhritarashtra, when he's taking a decision, he has to consult the Kulaguru. Okay? And act accordingly. Because sometimes the decision could be wrong. Right? If he acts according to the direction of the Guru, even though if he's wrong, the Lord will protect him. That's what we saw in Ambarish Maharaj pastime. In Ambarish Maharaj pastime, when Ambarish Maharaj wanted to break the fast by drinking water, he didn't know it was correct or wrong because Paran timing was approaching. So what he did, he consulted the Gurus. The Gurus told him, Ambarish, do like this. When he just followed it, Durvasa still got offended, but Durvasa could not touch Ambarish. Why? Because he always worked under the guidance of the Guru, he followed Dharma. So following Dharma principles are very important. So that's what Krishna says, that the earth became burdened because Duryodhana or other kings like Duryodhana never followed the instructions of the Gurus. They acted whimsically. And not only whimsically, they in fact lowered the position of Brahmanas, insulted them. They controlled the Vaishyas and Sudras in a different manner. They made them engage in different activities. So all sorts of things that they did. Now, for example, Karna is a Kshatriya, but he was called as a son of a charioteer, right? So he was actually a Sudra. But even though Duryodhana did not know the truth of the Karna's birth, he elevated him to be a king. That means a Sudra becoming a king at the administrative class and trying to rule. So you see Adharma. So like that, you see all Adharma was getting burdened and burdened and burdened. And Krishna said, it's time. So he came. He came, cleaned up the system, and he said, okay, I'm no more present required here. He unmanifested. So that's why Krishna manifested, came into appearance. He unmanifested, came to disappearance. That's what it means here. And he does this very often. And Prabhupada is giving example of the fish incarnation. Okay? So, is this point very clear here?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. So, now what we will do is we'll see in the sloka of third, we'll just read one sloka 36 alone, because this sloka where Kali enters now, and see what happens. And then we'll stop here. And subsequently, in the next class, we should finish this entire chapter. Okay? Yada mukundo bhagavan imam mahim jausa tanva shravaniya satkataha tadahar eva pratibuddha chetasam abhadrahetu kalir anvavartata. When the personality of Godhead Lord Krishna left this earthly planet in his self-same form, that means in his own spiritual body, transcendental body, that very day Kali, who already partially appeared, that means Kali was present even before Krishna disappeared, that means he was born, became fully manifest to create inauspicious conditions for those who are endowed with poor fund of knowledge. Look at this. Look at this statement. Fully manifest to create inauspicious conditions. Inauspicious means all bad things, negative things. To whom? Who are endowed with poor fund of knowledge. So whoever does not know the subject matter, you will see full influence of Kali on them. And they will perform or violate all the four religiosity in their life. Okay? So this is the problem of Kali Yuga. So in Kali Yuga, if we don't understand the subject matter and if we don't practice devotion, Kali will just overtake us. Will make us to perform those sinful activities and make us pay for it. This is the problem in Kali Yuga. So in Kali Yuga, Yajna Sankirtana prayer is the only solution. By taking up devotion in this manner, we can easily stop or stop the attack of Kali on each one of us. And that's the greatest benediction Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came. Now, Kali manifested. So that means from unpowerfulness, Kali became powerful now. Because there's no one to stop. So Kali started to grow. From a small toddler, it started to, crawl now. Okay, child can't move, but once it becomes a toddler, it can crawl, it can move. So once it became a crawler, okay, in size, the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu happened. So what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did, he has put a pause to Kali. That means Kali cannot manifest or become stronger any further. Whatever he is now, he'll continue to do that. Okay. Now, once the golden age of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu completes, then Kali will grow to a boy, to an adult, to youth, and to an adult, and he'll fully influence sinful activities across this world. Now, imagine whatever sinful activities you're seeing, terrorism, illicit sex, liquor, whatever you see that's happening around, is happening just because Kali is in a toddler format. Imagine what happens when Kali becomes an adult. Can you live in this world? That becomes atrocious. And that is the problem of age of Kali. Right? And hence Yudhishthira Maharaj says, no, this place is not for a gentleman to live. And hence he decides to quit himself from this world. Okay? So that is the point to understand about the beginning of Kali Yuga. So let's stop here to take more questions and understand if you have any doubts or thoughts. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
Prabhu, you were telling about the fish incarnation, right? That refers to the Matsyakurma avataram.
Yeah, Matsya Avatar.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So just like how Lord took fish incarnation to solve a particular purpose, he'll take Kurma Avatar to solve a particular purpose. He'll take Varaha Avatar to solve a separate purpose. Like that, he'll do one avatar. So it means Lord comes, goes. Lord comes and goes. That's what is being explained there.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, that means right now he has taken the avatar of our Guru Parampara.
Oh, no, that's not avatar. Mahaprabhu is avatari. Avatari means Krishna himself descends to give what is called a Sankirtanage. Okay, this is the specialty of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Kali Yuga is an age of no hope. Once the Lord completes his pastimes in Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga, there's no hope. Hardly people get liberated. But only when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes, that means once in the day of Brahma, during exactly 12 o'clock noon time, the presence of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will make Kali not to manifest and liberation is possible. Otherwise, it's not possible. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not avatar, he's avatari. That means Krishna himself coming back again.
We are all fortunate souls to be born in this Yuga, no, Prabhu?
Provided you practice devotion.
Yes, sir.
After
Okay.
being born in this time period, not practicing devotion is loss.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna Prabhu, this Kalki Avatara
Hmm.
is coming in the Kali Yuga
Hmm.
to mitigate the miseries of Kali's creations. What is the take on that?
Okay, Prabhu. See, Kali Yuga is totally 4,32,000 years.
Yeah.
Okay. It's divided into 4 parts of 1,08,000 years. So 8 into 4 is 32. Okay. Now, Kali Yuga will manifest, will become fully powerful in the first 3 quadrants of that means up to 3,24,000 years, Kali Yuga will fully manifest and devastate this entire, the consciousness, the people, the life, and everything in this world. Okay. At that point in time, it will become like a no hope and no return, and everyone would have suffered enough. So, Krishna comes in the form of death at that time. So that is Kalki Avatar. So in the Kalki Avatar, what has happened? He comes and he doesn't come and say, okay, you offer devotion, you chant the holy name, that this, you can go back home. Nothing. He just chops the head of all the living entities, because once this body is removed away, soul can be offered a different body, a new fresh of life, from which he can practice again. Right? So that is the role of Kalki Avatar. Kalki Avatar is not a role of regeneration. Kalki Avatar is just a loan of mercy to give you death, so then the next birth you can do something properly. That's what it is.
So it is also not for reform also.
Nothing, no reformation, nothing. It is just the whole system will be cleaned up. That's all.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes,
Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat
Prabhuji, Krishna had 16,000 wives, no Prabhu. Each one, each queen got 10 children. From that is 16,000 into 10. And
Correct.
again, when they grow, again they got married and again they got 10 children.
Yes.
Right, Prabhu?
Yes.
Are they called Yadus, Prabhu?
No, all of them were vanquished, completed.
No, they are referred to as Yadus, Prabhu?
You can say lineage of Yadus, but even though those were completely eradicated.
Prabhu, I could not, I didn't understand, Prabhu, exactly.
Oh, they are also called lineage of Yadus only.
Okay.
Son
Then
born,
who are those who are completely vanquished, Prabhu?
all of them.
Uh-huh.
No traces.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Otherwise, 10 generations later, he will
Yes.
say, I am, my father's property only, he will say.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay.
Okay. Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, in continuation of Balaji Prabhu's question, Prabhu,
Only
Yadavas. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
You wait, Mataji. See, only Vrajnabha was left behind to complete the activities on prescribed duties of the Lord. That means he has to re-establish the places of pastimes that the Lord performed. So only King Vrajnabha was left and he did all these activities. Otherwise, all the others were completed. Okay? Yes. Yeah?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, in continuation of Balaji Prabhu's question, now the Yadavas, there are so many Yadavas in politics and so many. They are all.
They are not Yadus.
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna.
someone would have born in the land of Gujarat after many generations. They'll claim I am Yadava like that. Okay?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Mataji.
Arjuna heard the teachings from Krishna directly.
Yes.
In the form of Bhagavad Gita. And why is his name not included in the Guru Parampara?
No, the Guru Parampara is different from what Arjuna is. Okay. Arjuna never became a guru to give this knowledge as his descendants. Okay. Arjuna was given that knowledge so that the whole world can hear. Okay. This was a scene set up for us to hear and apply to our life. Arjuna never took the position of a guru. Okay. So there's no disciplic succession with Arjuna.
Oh.
That's what you have to understand.
Oh.
Okay. The succession comes from the lineage of Acharyas that either manifested from Brahmaji or from Lakshmi or Kumaras or from Rudra. That lineage came in order to preach Krishna Bhakti cult. But the specific instruction of the Lord was given to Arjuna as a common man so that every common man in this world can hear it and take it and practice.
But he is an instrument, sort of.
Yeah, sort of an instrument, you can say. Lord took a recording player and recorded it, and then he used that in Arjuna, right? For example, Krishna spoke the Gita to Uddhava also. Uddhava also did not have a lineage, right? But you see, Maitreya Rishi, these people, they heard this and spread this knowledge. Sukadeva Goswami, Sudha Goswami, they heard this, spread this knowledge. So they are part of the Guru Parampara. Arjuna Uddhava.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu,
Hare Krishna.
Only it is so bad. Can't imagine how it is going to be this Kali later.
Unimaginable, Mataji. See, imagine the influence of a toddler. Toddler means they can only just glide on the floor and go. That only so much of influence. Look at illicit activities. Look at terrorism. Look at killing. Look at the amount of killing that they do for the cows. Intolerable. No mercy at all. Right? Now imagine what will Kali do when Chaitanya Prabhu's golden age is over and Kali becomes a youth or an adult. That's why Guru Maharaj tells, he cries and he's in tears. He says, don't even imagine to be in Kali Yuga. Don't even imagine to be in Kali Yuga. That's what he says. He says, it is so suffering, so much of suffering and painful. So hence he says, you have an opportunity, practice devotion, come back to God.
If we practice, I hope we'll be able to catch the Dhriti of Srila Prabhupada to go back, Prabhu.
That's our hope. Because we hope very sincerely, Lord will reciprocate.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu, for the wonderful class in the morning.
Yeah. If there are no other questions, we can end the class today. Grandharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gurudev ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrind ki jai, Vaishnava Thakur Srila Prabhupada ki jai. That's it.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you. What a wonderful class, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna
Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat.